Hello, everyone, and welcome back to an ALEC TV live stream. We're coming to you from downtown Atlanta at the Hilton at our 49th annual meeting. And today we have a very special guest with us. But first, I want to introduce our task force director on all things criminal and civil justice reform, Nino Marchese. Thank you, Nino.
Yeah, thank you, Catherine. It was great to see some of my hometown people back from Tampa, Florida. Attorney General Moody. She gave a great speech today on human trafficking, what the legislature can really do to help with the issue, how state lawmakers can help with the issue, and then how to organize it down from the executive branch to local level and private sector. I thought it was a great speech. And with me here, I have Representative Kim Mosier of Kentucky. She's our Criminal Justice Task Force Public Sector Chair.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us today. What were your thoughts on Attorney General Moody's speech and some of the insights she shared?
I think it's really interesting to hear from our state leaders, and it really is thought-provoking when we think about what we are doing in the legislature dealing with something as important as human trafficking. And it caused me to kind of reflect back on some of the legislation that we've passed in my home state of Kentucky and some of the work that our Attorney General is doing as well. And it's really about education and awareness, setting up a task force and even an office of human trafficking and prevention efforts, training some of our law enforcement, and really trying to get a handle on what is really, I think, historically an underreported problem in many of our states. So I thought it was a great discussion. I loved the examples of law enforcement involvement. So I thought it was very, very helpful, as a lot of the talks that we hear here at ALEC are.
Right. Yeah. I thought one of the most interesting things she talked about was how she helped create, a task force more or less in every single judicial circuit in the state of Florida. I know other states classify them, like she said, in different types of jurisdictions. But basically, all 20 jurisdictions of Florida have some type of task force comprised of people from all realms of the criminal justice system, prosecutors, maybe defense counsel, legislators, policymakers, and other private sector members to really help identify how to tackle the issue from a statewide perspective, but also at the local level too. Is there anything that you've heard in Kentucky of that being done in that way, similar to that when you talk about Kentucky tackling the issue?
Yes, exactly. And I think that's what I'm talking about when I mentioned the task force that our Attorney General Daniel Cameron has put together. And it really is kind of a collaborative effort with many of the state legislative officials as well as the executive branch, right down to our local law enforcement and working with our Commonwealth attorneys and others. I think it really highlights the importance of really being on the same page with some of our policymakers and really knowing and understanding how to really affect change and make a difference in the lives of the people who are really affected by this.
Right. What I particularly liked about her presentation was how she broke down tackling the issue into three major steps. The first was just public education. How to spot human trafficking, what it may look like, whether it be truck drivers or community engagement leaders. Secondarily, implementing training law enforcement how to target it and identify it as well. And then the third, and I think the critical component to actually following through with prosecutions, is to provide victim services. It doesn't always need to be a matter of bleeding hearts and taking care of people. Well, of course that's important. We should always be empathetic, but I think she really highlighted how important it is to really follow through with the justice system via taking care of victims, making sure they're in a stable condition. A lot of the times that they're hooked on and addicted to drugs. Usually at the hand of the human traffickers that are leading the organization, unfortunately. And so getting those victims stable to be able to cooperate with law enforcement and testify, I just thought it was such a great system to share from head to tail, how they're handling it in Florida.
Yeah.
Representative, if I could just ask a quick question. I wasn't able to hear Attorney General Moody's remarks. So one of the things that I was wondering is how she's going about. I understand that she's like sort of a 360 look, like she's looking at every point of contact that these victims or the perpetrators could have. One of them being the hotels. And so she's develop some sort of a training system for those frontline workers. Is that something that you have done in Kentucky?
Well, yes, as part of the legislation that we passed, it
Okay.
really raised awareness in some of those areas where, we know that with truck drivers, they might be some of the frontline folks who are
Right.
going to see individuals who are being exploited. And so, how do they identify individuals who may be in this situation? Yes, we have this awareness campaign across our state, and I think that many of these areas are being addressed and really kind of focused on, as well as understanding the population who really is at risk for being exploited.
Well, who is that population?
Well, I think that it is oftentimes illegal immigrants. They have this, kind of offense hanging over their head that is very exploitable. Substance use disorder is a huge problem across our nation, and of course we're seeing that in Kentucky as well. And as Nino said, oftentimes the perpetrators of human trafficking are targeting individuals with, or they have even propagated some of the substance use that we know keeps people dependent and in that cycle. Children, I think it was really important to note that parents should be really on the lookout for, um, online activity that would suggest some sort of exploitation of children. And I think that there are a lot of things that we can think about in terms of those populations that are really being targeted. That's really some of what Kentucky is working on, and I know that other states are working on this as well.
And Nino, when you talked about the populations that are being targeted, Nino and I live near each other in suburban Northern Virginia,
Mhm.
more of a sort of a high income part of the nation. But I have heard that our community, Fairfax County, Virginia, has a huge problem with human trafficking. And it's like young girls in upper middle class suburban neighborhoods who get co opted sometimes by like these immigrant gang groups or even their own family members. How do you deal with the where you think you're in a safe suburban neighborhood, but yet you're really not? You're still vulnerable. Is that an issue that these task forces are looking at? Is communities that may think that they're safe and not recognize that they do face those same dangers?
I think it goes back to what Representative Mosier said about how important it is that parents stay active in their kids' lives and being on top of their social media presence. Attorney General Moody said, there's no such thing as being too overprotective or a helicopter parent. I think that's kind of probably what she was speaking to. Immigrants are obviously an easy target. Unfortunately, a lot of their home and life circumstances in other countries is less preferable than being trafficked in the States. So that's a big component and a big part of the population. But yeah, there's American families, young American girls, upper middle class, like you're talking about. And I think the main thing is parental involvement, stopping the process before it becomes a criminal justice issue, getting ahead of the criminal justice system in that way. I think is the biggest preemptive measure that families and Americans can take to stop it from even becoming part of the problem in the first place.
Right.
Do you foresee this issue as being something that your task force will be very active on in the next legislative session when lawmakers get back into session?
I mean, I don't see why not. It touches into many different areas. Drug policy, drug reform. A lot of these human trafficking organizations are utilizing drugs as a huge component and mechanism of their organizations. That on top of sex crimes, our task force has several model policies on sex crimes and sex abuses. So I think this issue, it's sensitive and it's delicate and extremely heinous, but it covers, and that part of why that is because it's a combination of so many other criminal elements.
Well, it is, and it's hard to define. When you try to define exactly what human trafficking is, it encompasses a whole lot of heinous crimes, and so that becomes part of the discussion. I think it's very valuable to have these discussions. This is a problem that we're seeing just get worse across the U.S. So exactly why that is is a great reason to a great place to start. Exactly what's driving this and who are the exploited
And
populations.
I just have one more question before we wrap it up. Do
Sure.
you have any more questions?
Yeah,
You go.
just one more thing I wanted to add. I thought Attorney General Moody ended the segment perfectly. She spoke directly to legislators, and she said that if there's something that you want to do to really help with this issue as a state lawmaker, go down to what she called the line workers. Your district prosecutors, your sheriff's offices, police departments, other community organizations helping victim services, and ask them what it is that you need from us. What needs to be changed in the law to help make your job easier? What barriers are you experiencing?
Right.
And how can we gain your insight to make the actual effective changes in the law that need to be made to tackle the issue? And I think that's perfect advice for legislators to hear in any issue area, really, but especially for something like human trafficking.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's how we tackle every issue, and I think that it's great to continue that work and partnering together.
Well, just one last question, somewhat related to that is there a role that social media has played in exacerbating this problem? Is there any data that shows that social media is contributing to this?
I haven't seen that, but I think that we should certainly dig down on that data. And really, I think it's an interesting question. Certainly, we see that social media is prolific in everything else, so I'm sure that it has really contributed. And then we also did hear from Attorney General Moody about just the ways, well, and the law enforcement aspect, the various ways that perpetrators are targeting young children through social media. So, yeah.
The prosecutor that we had on stage with Attorney General Moody, I believe her name was Ms. Peters, she said that I think 70 to 80% of human trafficking, how they recruit them, is done through online means, and 60 to 70% of that is through social media. So that's what these people are using now. Social media is a huge component of that. It's a large factor of what prosecutors and sheriff's offices are looking at in their evidence gathering when they're prosecuting these people. So absolutely, social media is playing a huge role in this.
Right. Thank you so much. And my very last question, if I could just ask you, because we want to get all of our guests who come on today to tell us what is the value for these ALEC meetings for you? Like being a member of ALEC, what do you get out of it? And if you could share with others who may be on the fence or other lawmakers who aren't sure, what is ALEC? What is ALEC, and how do you benefit? How do your constituents benefit?
Well, I benefit just in the networking across the nation. It's so interesting to hear about what's working in other states and maybe what isn't. And to really talk to other legislators, talk to some of our staff across the nation about some of the issues. And it's clearly not just criminal justice. I actually chair Health and Family Services in Kentucky. So I'm very interested in how the negative health effects that we see in our state and across the nation affect everything else that we do. And so I think that ALEC offers a very common sense approach to looking at the impact of either our policies or our lack thereof. So it's very energizing for me to come to these meetings. I love connecting with Nino and our staff, other legislators, and really taking a deep dive on some of the policies that we know are making a difference.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Nino.
Thank you, Kat.
Bring us more awesome guests like Representative Mosier and talking about your issues. Because I think safe communities is just so important to people right now. And that's something that ALEC has really taken a lead on in addressing this issue. So we want to thank all of you for watching. And we're going to stay on with our live stream. And we will let Representative Mosier head out. And Nino, if you want to stay and talk, you're welcome to. Otherwise, I think we may have some other guests that are coming. So we should be good. If you two head out, but thank you.
Perfect.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Mosier.
This was fun.
Thank you. It was
All
fun.
right. Yeah.
Thank you,
All right.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thank you, Nino. All right. I'm looking down here at my calendar. I have someone coming up right about now. Yeah. So I just signaled back to our next guest. But if you're just watching our live stream right now, we're coming to you from the downtown Hilton in Atlanta, Georgia. Hi, so we're just keeping the live stream open the whole time. So it's two of you.
Yeah.
A minute ago, we had one sitting and one just standing. Do you guys have a preference?
Both can stand.
Both can stand.
We can just move this.
You can sit.
Sit.
Yeah.
You get the middle chair. That's the one that has to answer most of the hard questions.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, that's the tough one.
Maybe I don't want this chair now.
And I'm going to just make sure I properly identify both of you. Go first.
I'm Doug Mitchell, CEO of Scholar Path.
Doudm.
ITCHELL.
I actually could have had this done ahead of time, so I'm sorry. And the name of the group again? Oh,
Scholar Path.
I'm so excited to hear about what you all do. And then tell me your name, sir.
I'm Jake Goslin.
Gosl.
Lin.
Okay. Jake Goslin, also Scholar Path.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We're going to put that up as our banner. Okay. Well, welcome everyone. We have Doug Mitchell, he's CEO of Scholar Path, and Jake Goslin. You're one of the policy analysts, or
He kind of does a little bit of everything
Yeah,
for
a little
Doug.
bit of everything.
Doug's right hand man.
so obviously at ALEC, one of the big focuses we have is education and ensuring that parents and children get the right education that's individualized for them. And you're right in that field with Scholar Path. Why don't you tell me a little bit about what Scholar Path does and what it means for families? How would you benefit parents out there?
I'm a father of four and I haven't been in education, but been in higher ed and recruiting for nearly about 15 years, and realized there's a lot of things going on with student loan debt, and decided to start a technology that would actually help eliminate student loan debt. And it merged into a much bigger thing. We're now considered a 12th grade transition company. The biggest part of what we do is we actually do a career interest survey on an 8th grader to actually find the interest of what that student likes, no matter the cost or education. Once we do that, we actually build a 4-year plan through high school. So we partner with the Department of Education and the high schools in the area that they live in. Pull about 182 data points. We do a battery of surveys, and then we mix those together to give the best outcome for a student. After their 4 years of high school, we try to place them in military, college, or workforce. So we do a little bit of everything.
So is this something that a family would pay?
No, that's the best part about
Tell me
it.
how that works.
We actually legislate, me and Jake legislate with the states and try to get through a state appropriations. So we try to help the Department of Education actually get the funding through the legislature, which is a positive thing for the parents and students because it doesn't cost them anything.
Right.
Once the student graduates, they will get to keep the profile page for free for life.
Wow, that's fabulous. That is really cool because when I first heard about your organization, I had in the back of my mind that it was something that families would pay for as a benefit to their student. And I thought that could exacerbate inequality, right? Like where some students get access to this awesome program and then others don't. But you're doing it through the states so that all students will have access to all the data that you're creating on each one.
Yeah, I think the biggest positive side is the Department of Education's all hurt for money.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to figure out how to spend the state money. Everyone's trying to figure out locally what the money that they get, how they can spend it. So by going the route with the legislature and doing a little bit of legwork with me and Jake in the capitals, obviously the need for workforce development and higher education is important to both sides of the aisle. So it's a benefit for everybody, really, the Department of Ed, the parents, but most importantly, the students. The students are the ones that win the biggest because now it's not what their parents think they should do or their coaches. It's what they actually want to do.
And then you've also identified their aptitudes, right? Like sort of what they like and what they're good at. You're looking at all aspects.
Correct. And actually, most states now mandate a 4-year plan, individual learning plan. We actually populate that through our system. So once they do the career interest survey, we hit enter, and then we can actually populate, and we eliminate a lot of the work on the counselor side because we help populate the courses they will need for all 4 years. core classes, and then all the electives to get to the IRC, the industry recognized credentials, are easily imported and moved around. The kid goes to fall off path. We help track those kids and bring them on path.
That's so exciting. I have a son who just graduated about a year ago, and he had a good experience through high school. But even the best counselors, they can't keep track, and certainly not give the individual attention to every student.
Yep.
So sometimes as a parent, I would ask myself, well, are these counselors really in tune with him? Are they helping him? And I was never fully confident. But it sounds like with this is a program that it's a boost. It's like them having a personal counselor.
So I'll actually let Jake talk on this. He was actually an educator, and we recruited him out of the classroom.
Okay.
He was a coach and educator. We recruited him out. I've known him since he was a kid. His dad was my wrestling coach, and runs our sales department for the company. But I'll let him speak about being in the classroom, leaving the classroom to still help kids, but then just help them in a different way.
I love it. Tell us, Jake,
and,
from your point.
Back on what kind of your point too, and what Doug was getting at as well, is that the goal of this is to not just have that counselor feel like they're a scheduler. We do a lot of work with athletes specifically, in coaching and wrestling, where you have a lot of students who maybe aren't having the greatest experience in school. They don't know what they want to do. There might be issues at home, and that counselor really is to help with those social, personal, all of those elements, as well as the work that gets thrown on their plate of everything.
Yeah.
It's really just crazy to see the number of students assigned to a specific counselor, and that's daunting for anybody. If you're managing that many people, that's hard for anyone. And what we want to do is help educate the students on why these classes are important, and then give them an easy way to see what helps them pursue their goal, and maybe hopefully free up a little bit more of that time for that counselor to help with those other issues that are going on as well. So really just want to make this process easier for everybody being involved.
And how long has Scholar Path been around?
We started actually 4 years now. We actually started building code about 3.5. We've been about a year and a half in schools. We actually built the technology inside of 3 school districts in St. Louis, Missouri: University City, Orchard Farm, and St. Charles High, which I'm a St. Charles boy. So it was the sister school to where I went. But the principal's a good friend and gave us the ability to get in the personal finance classes and start building out how it looks, how it feels, what the students would like to see. Typically, the districts now and have for the last 30 years use an ONET survey, which is what we did and embedded in our system for the career interest profiler. So it's just now growing, grabbing legs. We do have a contract with the state of North Carolina. We just got through budget in the state of Missouri, and we're working with South Carolina currently right now. So we're pretty excited to see where this thing can go, and help all students.
So your audience here today at ALEC is going to be state lawmakers.
Yep.
And this is a great audience for you because you can connect with them and educate them about what you do and how your program can really help the schools, help the students, help ultimately their constituents, but at a much lower cost than saying the school districts doubling their counseling staff, right? You're like that force multiplier.
What we do like about what we do is currently in the way the system's built right now is counselors are schedulers. A typical counselor has in a decent sized school district has anywhere from 200 to 400 students that they got to schedule. Well, they're not even counseling. So the students that are, their GPAs might be dropping 2 or 3 points. Nobody's understanding what's going on in their life, how we can help correct, how we can actually help the student. And with social emotional learning right now and all the issues that we're having, we're hoping the technology is going to free up a little bit of their time to help those students that need the help.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I've been thinking like post-COVID, we know that young people are dealing with a lot of social emotional issues. And this may be an opportunity, as you said, for the counselors to be able to focus on some of those things.
Correct.
And additional providers to our platform as well. So we consider a provider any business, any nonprofit, any group, military recruiters, college admissions recruiters, or people that are hiring directly in the workforce. So these providers actually generate content and push content to the students in the platform. They have a news feed where, based off their interest and based off their data and off of their self-inputted interest and information, their newsfeed is catered to them to help them see more and learn more about what they're passionate about or what they want to pursue. But another avenue for that is that if you do have nonprofits or you have groups that are focused on these elements we're talking about, on maybe it's on mental health, on social well-being, or any of these elements where we know the students really need those resources, they can push that content right into the newsfeed, and then the students are allowed to reach out to them anonymously for just privacy of their data and their information. They can reach out anonymously and talk to those people to gain more insight, gain more education, or possibly even gain those resources that can help them with whatever they're dealing with, whether that be academic, whether that be social, any of those things going on. And that's really what we want to do, is be that there's a lot of things that are designed to help a student figure out what they want to do, but we want to take that to the final step of actually being the connector and the conduit to get them to what they want to do.
Absolutely. I can totally relate to that. I mean, when I was a young person and my kids, they sort of have an idea of what they want to do, but they don't know the steps to get there.
Yep.
What do they have to? So are you messaging and working primarily with state lawmakers, or like, should I ask families and parents out there to go to your website, or is this really like state lawmakers should go, and what's the best way?
State lawmakers should go.
Okay.
Log in, just get in there,
Okay.
give us their email. We'll send them some literature on it. The most important thing is just the support of the parents, knowing that we have an opportunity to show every student every opportunity that actually fits their needs. Like Jake said, the criteria is built around their newsfeed. We call a newsfeed, but it's really any social media a kid uses right now, that unlimited scroll. That gives them every opportunity, whether you're at Central Methodist.
Sorry, scholarpath.com or
Yeah.
.org?
.com. So if you're looking at Central Methodist University, small school, liberal arts school in Missouri, and we have the scholarship matrix built in there properly, the student can log in and actually see what they qualify for. We even have a FAFSA early estimator. So some kids say, well, I can't go because we don't have the money.
Right.
What ScholarPath does do is it allows them to research the schools without going to a school to understand how much they're going to pay in aid. Most kids don't know if you're in an underserved community and you fill out your FAFSA, you can go to community college for free.
Yes.
So kids, we're not getting the word out to the students that need it the most.
Right.
And that's what ScholarPath is trying to do.
Is trying to, fill in that gap.
Yep.
I'm very excited about what you're doing. So go to scholarpath.com, check out what they're doing. And especially if you're a state lawmaker, you're here at ALEC or watching what we're doing, that may be a fabulous resource to really help your constituents.
Correct.
And that's what we're ultimately concerned about, is improving the lives of our Americans, all Americans. And it sounds like ScholarPath is doing just great work.
We're getting there.
It's just not getting done in the schools because so much is asked of them.
Well,
and this is
my last piece, everybody talks workforce and education, but nobody's connecting the workforce to the education. We do have competitors, but none of them actually connect the tool, the communication for every company, every business. The states we go get a free profile page, which gives them a little information about what their business is. And then they go through the steps to be able to push the broadcast and then also get the one-on-one communication with students.
Yeah. Anything you want to add here, Jake?
I'll speak to one more point about the connection between workforce and education. And that would be that as we get down the road and as more students are actually a part of the platform and using the platform, completing their surveys, filling out their 4-year plans, that will then allow us to help state agencies to take a longer term look at how they actually need to scale their workforce and how they need to scale their positions to help educate and train that workforce. As far as, maybe you have a lot of students that are interested in STEM, but you might have a shortage of math and science teachers. Well, you have a whole group of middle schoolers that are going to come in and want to go into this field and go into an emerging industry in your area. Well, that lets the state know, okay, well, let's increase the efforts, let's increase the funds to make sure we have the people to properly train the students to scale the workforce effectively. It's one thing to just say we need to scale the workforce. It's another thing to take a deeper analytical look and say, well, this is really how we can do that. And we hope that as the platform continues to grow, we are actually able to provide those longer term outlook and features for the states and those agencies.
I'm really happy that you're here. Is this your first ALEC meeting?
No, I've been to the last two. I went to Salt Lake and San
Okay.
Diego. So this is something that my lobbyist all say, hey, you got to be there. So I've got about 8 different lobbying firms here that we work directly with here, getting breakfast tomorrow morning. So we're pretty excited to be supportive of ALEC, ALEC to be supportive of us.
What do you get out of these meetings? What's the
Real,
benefit, you think?
really just meeting the lawmakers, meeting the people that really want to change education and workforce, people that really are passionate about helping kids. I mean, that's the best part about being at ALEC.
Yeah, they're passionate and they're in a position to actually make a difference.
Correct.
Yeah. So, well, thank you both so much.
Yes,
we really
thank you.
appreciate it, Doug.
It's nice to meet
Thank you,
Catherine.
Jake. It was nice
Yep.
to meet you. So this was live streamed. The link will be forever on our YouTube page. And if you wanted to
Yep.
go, that's where it'll be, or I
Okay.
can send it to
Well,
Heather.
yep, send it,
Yeah.
Tyler.
I'll get it to Heather.
That'd be
Appreciate it.
All right,
Thank you
thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you again.
Thank you, guys. Have a great afternoon.
Yes, you too.
All right, so it's just back to me. Well, you know what, Jay? I don't think I'm going to cut it because we have other people coming.
Okay.
Let's see. 2 p.m. That was our 2. Okay. Actually, I don't have anyone till 3. So we have a huge amount of time to fill unless we wanted to start another. We don't see any victims, any nearby victims we could pull in. All right. So, Joel. I think everyone's at their task force meetings. They're getting down to the business here of ALEC. Okay, so we're going to close out this live stream and we'll come back. And when we come back at 3, we're going to be speaking with Representative Eric Nelson of Pennsylvania and the ALEC Task Force Director on Energy, Agriculture, and Environment, Joe Trotter. And we're going to get into solutions to bringing down these high energy costs, the gas. So that'll be at 3 Eastern. So we'll see you back here then. Thanks, everyone.